Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be critiquing another American remake of one of my favourite British shows, which is Taskmaster. And yeah, if you take one look at my channel, you will know that I'm a massive fan of Taskmaster, and I have recently reviewed the New Zealand Taskmaster, which was actually pleasantly really good. Not the same could be said for the US version, so let's just get into the video. My personal opinions is that Taskmaster does have the potential to be, created by different countries and, created with other countries' comedians and comedic style, because, I don't think it is a necessarily British-centred show. It's been made in Britain, so that's what we're kind of used to with the comedy. And this has been seen, as I said before, with the New Zealand Taskmaster. They did an absolutely brilliant job at taking this original idea and making it their own while also staying true to the original. So why didn't it work for America? So just a bit of background, the American series was commissioned in 2017, which was around the time of season 4, 5 and Champions of Champions, which it was crazy. I didn't realise how quickly the seasons came out until looking at it. And it was actually released in 2018 on the channel Comedy Central. So where did it go wrong? First of all, let's start with the positives, because there's not many. So one of the positives was that even though they used kind of all the same tasks as we've seen in the British one, which I will get onto later, it was very interesting to see more people do these tasks and kind of more people's different approaches to the tasks. It's just quite interesting. The one that comes to mind is, when they had to throw the egg through the basketball hoop as a live task, and it's most times to get the egg through the thing in 100 seconds or something like that. I can't remember the exact things. But in the British one, they all kind of just dropped the egg. Whereas in the American one, they wrapped it up in their coat or their shirt or something, or someone put it in their shoe and was throwing that through. Which, why did anybody in the British one think of that? So I think that kind of aspect of it is quite good. Another aspect is that Alex Horne actually reprised his role as the Taskmaster assistant in the American version, which makes sense because he's the creator of the show. And I think he did do quite a good role of being the Taskmaster assistant. He didn't really change much about it. Most of his kind of, jokes at the start were kind of centred around him being British in America, which, they were quite funny and very Alex Horne. So my last positive was I actually really liked Ron Funches, I think his name is. I think he was an absolutely brilliant contestant. His attitude, his response to the tasks was really funny. And I think he made really good commentary on his own tasks as well as other people's tasks. So that was really good. And unfortunately, that is all the positives I have for it. It wasn't horrible. There was still some entertaining parts to it, but it just didn't transfer well to America, and I will get into that now. So where do I even start with the negatives? I think the biggest issue that Taskmaster has, the American version, is that it's only half the length. The British show, as we all know, is about 40-45 minutes long, which is really good. You get to see a lot of the tasks, you get to see multiple tasks. So I don't know why they decided to cut the time in half. So by reducing the running time of the show, it means they had to cut out the prize task, they had to rush through the tasks, and they only included in each episode 2 pre-recorded tasks and 1 live task. That's it. Whereas in the 40-minute version, in the original version, you get so much more. Watching the pre-recorded task was very rushed. It showed 30 seconds to a minute of each person's task, which is not enough time for the audience to gain a really good idea of what they're doing in the moment and the stress they're feeling, what's going through their mind, which I think is one of the biggest failures, because that is one of the most important and funny aspects of the show, is seeing these comedians that we look up to fail miserably doing seemingly simple tasks, and watching them mess up and fail is what is funny, and also seeing them succeed is also brilliant. So rushing through the tasks leaves very little, you don't really get that tension, you don't get the stress of what they're going through. And for one example, one of the tasks they did, you watched them do it. It was the get the ping pong ball out of the tube, and obviously the tube has holes in, And so we watched one person do it, and, you know, they struggled a little bit, and they got through it in the end though. And then Alex was like, oh yeah, they took 40 minutes, which is kind of funny, but it didn't work. I was like, oh, okay, we barely saw anything they did then. Whereas when we saw it in the UK version, you see them struggle, you see them fail again and again and again, and you know that they've taken a while. And then to say, he actually took 40 minutes doing this, that's funnier. It also works when you do it the other way around. So when someone does a task really easily, and it's like, yeah, they took 30 seconds, and it still seems to be less impactful in the American version because you're shown the same amount of time for each person. Like, do you see where I'm coming from with this? Like, it doesn't translate well at all, cutting the tasks down. You just don't get a feel for the task. You barely really see everyone's responses very well, and it just doesn't work. As I mentioned before, the prize task was removed. I did actually know this before watching the show. However, it was removed in a way that I wasn't expecting. So instead of having the normal prize task where they set a task and bring in the most beautiful item or something like that, and they all get points for it, it's ranked, it's a task. In the American version, one contestant per episode brings in a prize, which is something the item you don't want to lose the most or something like that. And the contestants actually bring in really good items. There's like a laptop, a teddy bear that someone had when they were a baby, like medical records, like really good prizes, and yet they're just not ranked at all. It's like, okay, you brought in a laptop, that's what we're playing for, and it just doesn't work. And then also, there's only 5 contestants, there's 8 episodes. So Alex brings in a task, Reggie Watts, the Taskmaster, brings in a prize, and then they just do here's a collection of stuff from the house. They may as well have just taken it out completely. The kind of half in, half out method doesn't work here. Like, they could just be playing for, I don't know, just making points. Like, it just didn't work, in my opinion. I can understand not wanting the prize task in there, but this method, this alternative, just didn't work for me at all. With it being only 20 minutes, you'd think there would only be one break, 2 parts to the show. Nope, there are 3 ad breaks, so it's split into 4 parts, the same as the 40-minute original. That doesn't make any sense. You literally see 5 to 6 minutes of the show until you're interrupted by an ad. So the ads, 2 to 3 minutes worth of ads? Like, what is the point of that? Just split it in the middle, have 2 parts of the show. You'd get a better feel of the show that way. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It completely ruins the flow. I already don't like the ads in the original, but, like, with it being, you get a good 10 minutes per section, it works quite well. But only having, 5 minutes per section is just ridiculous. Like, I can't believe it. As I said before, there's only 2 tasks and 1 live task per episode. So winning an episode can be so easy. You just need to win 2 tasks and you've pretty much done it. Like, there is barely any tension with who wins each episode. Which, again, just ruins the point. Just get rid of the prize tasks. Don't do individual wins. Just do accumulated points or something. Because, yeah, then one contestant wins half of the episodes. And it's just boring to a point. It's like, okay, yeah, she does well on the tasks. We get it. Whereas when you have more episodes and you can do really well in the first 2 tasks and then do disastrous in the last ones, whereas that tension isn't there because you could win the first 2 tasks and then do all right or bad and still win. So onto the tasks. Like I said before, the tasks are all the same. There is not a single task that is original to the American version. They do change them up a little bit. For example, the one from season 5, which is get basketball through the hoop without touching it, that is included in the original, but there's a swimming pool, so they have to get it over the swimming pool. So that's an added challenge. Things like that I can understand. It's a little addition, it's change, it's using a task that they know works, but it just doesn't feel the same. Just be original. It just shows a complete lack of originality in an otherwise very original show concept. So I don't get it, and it makes sense why the New Zealand version had it in their contract that they weren't allowed to reuse any of the tasks, which is a completely amazing approach. It makes sense. Like, we've already seen these tasks be done before. Yes, it's quite interesting to see different people do the tasks. It was just kind of boring as someone who has seen the show to see people doing it less funnily. Funnily, that isn't a word. But, you know, it's less entertaining for me as a viewer of the original. And obviously I don't know what it's like for, like, first-time American viewers, so they haven't heard of the British Taskmaster, this is what they're watching. And also, what if they have seen the original? Like, Freddie Highmore is a British actor. He might have seen the original. Like, what's the point of using all the same tasks? Like, surely they would have been somewhat introduced to the original show and be like, oh, this is, you know, we're remaking this one. And yet they've used all the same tasks. I don't know, it's very odd to me that. So one of my other main issues with the show is actually the contestants themselves. So if you don't know, the contestants were Dylan Francis, who is a DJ and music producer, Freddie Highmore, who is a British actor, Kate Ballant, who is a stand-up and improv comedian, Liza Lampanelli, who is a stand-up comedian, and Ron Funches, who is a comedian and voice actor. So most of them are all right. Like, I don't really have anything against most of them, but it's weird that they're not all comedians. Like, we've seen non-comedians do really well on the show and be really entertaining, you know, most specifically with the New Year special treat, or whatever it's called. So non-comedians isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just on the first series of a show on a comedy channel, why wouldn't you include all comedians? Like, I just don't understand the logic. Like, Dylan Francis and Freddie Highmore did quite well on the show. I found them quite entertaining, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. So one of the things that really, really annoys about the show is the contestant Liza. I'm going to say Lisa, because I've heard it pronounced different ways by different people. I'm just going to call her Lisa. So she is probably one of the worst contestants I've ever seen on the show. Like, she annoyed me so much. And looking by her Wikipedia page, it's just someone who is just, you know, just looking her up to see who she was. She is a very, very controversial comedian. Like, why would they have her on a show? Just for a few examples, most of her stand-up revolves around making fun of ethnic minorities. She says that being a stand-up comedian is great because she can say the N-word on stage and get paid for it. She also appeared on Celebrity Apprentice and, you know, basically just was mean to everybody and then refused to apologise for it, and also made loads of racist remarks against one of a Hispanic contestant, I think. So why would you have her on a show? She is self-proclaimed. She calls herself the Queen of Mean, and her comedy style is insult comedy. That is not what the show is about. Yes, the occasional little fight or the occasional insult thrown at somebody is funny, but her whole personality is based around thinking that swearing and making fun of somebody is funny, which it's not. It can be, but it's not inherently funny. So one example of this is they did the task from season 2 where they had to phone up a pizza place and order a pizza, like, it's really specific without saying any of the words. It was cringy and uncomfortable in parts in the original version, but oh my god, I almost had to turn it off like multiple times. It made me so uncomfortable. She was like being so mean to the person on the phone, just some innocent person who is just trying to do their shift at a pizza place. Like, I don't know whether it's just me who felt this way, but Jesus Christ, she's so mean. Like, you can kind of tell by, like, the way Alex kind of watched the task and some of the other contestants. Like, some of them were really nice. Like, Ron and Freddie and Kate were quite nice on the phone. Like, you could tell that they were kind of uncomfortable with it as well. Dylan was kind of, like, a bit in the middle. He said, like, oh, God, I felt really mean doing that. But she was literally, like, shouting at them. Like, the fact that they hung up on her and just refused to speak to her anymore. And she won the task. Because she sent in a thing, she basically had to get Alex, and she just wrote it down on the paper because they refused to talk to her and they still let her win the task. Like, I would have been like, no, you're not getting any points for that. You just, like, berated a minimum wage worker because you wanted to win a task. Like, that's just not how it works.
Listen to me, you know the round things you sell? They're made out of dough and sauce and cheese?
We have a calzone, but it doesn't come with sauce.
The flat thing.
Honey sausage.
That's what, wait! What's the first one?
So you want a topping?
Okay.
You want
Shush! If you run through them, I'll just say yes, yes, yes. Okay, go.
It it just goes too far for something that is a light-hearted comedy, like, competition show. It's just, oh god, I really hated it. I am not a confrontational person, and oh god, it was just so mean. She's also just too loud. Like, if someone does something good on the thing or does something impressive, she'll, like, scream. And it's like, there's just no point for that. If you find it funny, like, maybe, like, clap a bit, laugh at it. Like, you don't need to scream at something to show that you're impressed by it. Like, oh, God. She's also really mean to Alex throughout. Like, again, just unnecessary. Some people take that approach as kind of like, you know, James not saying hi to Alex, and Rod, like, torturing Alex with certain things, and it can be funny, but again, she just takes it too far. Her whole kind of stick is that she hates Alex, and it's like, okay, we get it. Also, in regards to kind of like the contestants' chemistry, nobody except for Ron, I would say, actually makes an effort to kind of like justify his approach, and also kind of like talk, you know, comment on everyone else's approach to the task. He makes like continuous like funny remarks about his own performance and the other people's performance, and, you know, kind of what they do in the British one, but he's like the only one to consistently do that. Also, in kind of regards to contestants and the tasks, there's no group tasks, there's no team tasks at all. I don't know why. Maybe because of the time restraint of the show. Maybe they just wanted to focus on individual ones since they have to cut down the amount of tasks they can do. Or also maybe because they just don't think the chemistry with the contestants will work, because there was absolutely no chemistry whatsoever between the contestants. You know, when you kind of watch the British one, specifically when they have like, you know, longer series, so like from season 6 onwards, like there is a better sense of like the chemistry between the contestants because they're there for 10 weeks, or well, I mean, I know they don't film all, you know, in 10 weeks, I know it's not like that, but they're there with each other for a lot longer time, so they get, you know, they support each other, but then they also get annoyed with each other, and that makes for a really good viewing experience. Whereas this, it's just kind of like they're all just sitting in their chair, they look at the screen, they see them do a task, and it's like, yeah, okay, that was good, and it's just, yeah, it just didn't work. So a lot of people, when I've heard people talk about the show, they always focus on the Taskmaster, which is Reggie Watts, and I didn't have like much of a problem with him. I think all the other things let the show down more than him, because he is a really likeable, very nice guy, and I think he makes for a really good host. However, he's not suited to being the Taskmaster. He's too chill, he's too laid back, and, you know, just kind of like, yeah, that was good, like, I'll give you some points for that. Whereas, yes, you can take a different approach to the Taskmaster, like Jeremy Wells did in New Zealand one, like he wasn't as strict as Greg. But I think Reggie's just too chill to be the Taskmaster. However, I think out of all the things that make the show bad, Reggie Watts, I think, is kind of the littlest problem in terms of that. Because, like I said, he's probably one of the nicest people there. He's probably one of the most likeable person, at least for me anyway. Like, yeah, he's not a Taskmaster, but, like, he is still entertaining and is a good host. Yeah, and I think it was kind of unfair to kind of, like, chuck this, you know, he is the face of the American version, which I think is really unfair, because I don't know if you watched the original, I don't know what he was expecting, but they should have gone for somebody a lot more naturally assertive. You know, because Greg is just naturally kind of like, I won't take anything for anybody. Like, if you do something bad, I will call you out for it. Whereas Reggie seems a bit more hesitant to do that, which is understandable. Like, I do think that the role of the Taskmaster is a very hard one to fill. So it makes sense. And I do think they could have found somebody that was like naturally kind of a bit more assertive. Like somebody I think I would have been really good, who would have been really good as Taskmaster, would be someone like Nick Offerman. So he has kind of played that kind of no frills, I'll say it how it is kind of thing when he played Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec. And he does kind of like carry parts of Ron Swanson within his own character. So I feel like him, you know, doing that would have been quite natural to him, or at least something that he can put on. Like, even if you're not naturally assertive, like, if you put on the act as like, right, I am going to be as harsh as I possibly can, then I think Nick Offerman would have been very good at that. So I'm just going to kind of run through a few like minor complaints I have with the show. So one of it is because of the length of the episodes and the fact that it's only 8 episodes of 20 minutes length, you don't really get a feel for the house. Like when you watch even like the first season of the show, you know, okay, so there's a lab, there's a garden, there's a shed, there's a kitchen. You kind of get a feel for the house as like the living room, upstairsy bit. So you get a feel for the house, you get a feel for kind of like the environment that they're in, where things are. Whereas with the American version, you don't get that. You only really see like the swimming pool. That's where most of the tasks take place. And, oh yeah, with the swimming pool. Oh, okay, I just remember something that really annoyed me. They did that, the task where you have to make the ice disappear from season 1. And I personally am for Tim Key getting more points than he did. I think throwing it into a river and, you know, making it disappear that way is more inventive and a really good creative way to do it. But if you've watched the newest Taskmaster podcast episode with Nicola Coughlan in, then you will know with Alex's bonus fact that 2 of the contestants, Kate and Lisa, Kate kind of like put the ice in the water and made it kind of like pushed it down so it disappeared for a sec. And Lisa just put a basket on it, and apparently that counts as disappearing, which, I don't know, like Tim is kind of like pushing the line, like he's on the line and he should just go past it and they win from that. I think like Lisa wins. And it's just like, no, that's not how it works. I think there are creative ways to do it. Like I said, Tim Key's kind of like on the line. You could do a magic trick kind of thing and make it disappear because, you know, the whole make the biggest thing disappear counts as making something disappear in, you know, other tasks. So that kind of thing works, but just putting a basket on it isn't making it disappear at all. It just doesn't make any sense, and I'm really, really salty that they got points for that because it just doesn't make any sense. Another thing that I think they kind of tried to do is I think they tried to kind of mimic or reconstruct funny things that happened in the original and the American version. So one example of this is that they did the paint a horse or riding on a horse. And, you know, one of the funniest parts is that Roisin doesn't go on the horse. She's too scared to go on the horse, so she goes on like an automatic thing, which is one of the funniest moments. I found it absolutely hilarious. And I think because of how popular that moment was and how funny it was, they tried to reconstruct that. So they had 4 of the contestants do the proper task. And it's like, oh, let's see what Freddie Highmore did. And yeah, they got him riding around in a little carriage. And it's like, that's not as funny. Like, it's not natural. You should let these things happen. Like, I'm all for individual tasks. I'm all for changing up a task and to make somebody have to do something extra, which, by the way, it was always Freddie in the American one. He got like 2 individual tasks, I think, or like slightly individual. Overall, like, it had potential. Like, like I said, there are funny American comedians and it could have been a really funny show if they had stuck to the same structure. I think that's like the main point, is that the structure works. They know that works, and they know it works with different presenters, e.g. Jeremy Wells. They know it works with different tasks, the New Zealand version. Like, they know this kind of thing works. Well, I mean, I know the New Zealand version didn't exist before the American one, but they know everything works with the show, and they know it can work with different comedians because there's different comedians on each season. So giving that format to America for them to put their own comedians in should work. They've just changed it up too much and it just failed. So, rant over. I am looking to do some more videos on American remakes and remakes of Taskmaster. I think I might watch, there's like some European versions of Taskmaster, and if I can find editions with subtitles, then I will definitely watch them because I have heard good things about them. I'm also looking at American remakes. I think I'm going to be looking at the American remake of Miranda, which is a train wreck. So if you're excited, if you want to see that, then subscribe so you don't miss it. And I've got loads of other videos if you're interested in Taskmaster and American remakes of British shows. Yeah, if you really like this video, please give it a like, it's really appreciated, and please subscribe because I am getting very, very close to 1,000 subscribers and it would be amazing if I could hit 1,000. So yeah, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!